Morning. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to Micha Magid for joining us. We're here to talk about restaurant to retail, which is going to be an exciting topic because a lot of folks who come to us are find it to be foreign about how to make the jump from operating a restaurant to getting into CPG. And so it's exciting to meet and talk with Micha this morning. He is co-founder of Mighty Quinn's, New York City barbecue institution that has many locations. He is also he is franchising his brand. In addition, he has his CPG products. And so we're very excited to meet a dynamic company who are doing many things and who are responding to their environment and taking advantage of it. So thanks for joining us today, Micha. Good morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Super. Today we're going to focus, what we do want to touch on is we want to hear about Micha's journey with his restaurant and his brand, in addition to what they're doing today. But we are going to focus on their CPG products. And this is how they conceived of their products, researched and developed and arrived at what they are selling, partnering with co-packers, which people ask us often about, distributors, and then getting onto the grocery shelves. They're in hundreds of stores. And so we're excited to hear about how they have achieved all of that in a relatively short period of time. And so welcome again. Micha, can you please tell us about your background? Was there life before food?
So life before food was different. So I come to the industry from actually a Wall Street background. I started my career at JP Morgan doing M&A work and investment banking, and then transitioned over to the hedge fund industry, where I was there for a decade, investing across a diverse group of industries, and always kind of found myself leaning towards consumer-facing industries. It's much easier to analyze something that you interact with as a customer as well. So what happened was towards the end of 2011, we basically saw Mighty Quinn's doing really well at Smorgasburg. We had a mobile pit and a tent, and we had, lines forming before we opened, and basically sliced brisket, for 6 to 8 hours straight until we sold out. So that was our proof of concept, and we used that to really validate our thought that it was really hard to find authentic barbecue in New York City, locally, and that basically pushed us to find our first brick and mortar location in the Village, which we opened in 2012. And then, 3 or 4 months after we opened, we found ourselves on the cover of the New York Times dining section with this glowing review from Pete Wells. So, the brand really got put on a map on a very organic, on a very organic path, from, weekend pop-up to first restaurant to getting national press. And that was really the tailwind for us to say, okay, this brand has some legs to it. We think that this lack of authentic barbecue dynamic probably not only exists in Manhattan, but also in other, large urban areas where it's often kind of not easy to put, wood burning smoker, in the middle of, commercial real estate as an example. And so, with the momentum of the brand, we then started expanding, obviously locally. Our second location was actually opened in New Jersey. Then we came back to New York and opened a second one in down in the Financial District, and kind of kept going from there.
That's awesome. The brand has now been around since 2011. It's 13-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Where are you guys currently regarding your brand, and how many restaurants do you have?
Sure. We're currently at 16 locations, which is a mix of corporate, franchise, and licensed locations. The licensed ones are in the sports stadium. So we have 2 in MSG, 1 in Yankee Stadium, and 2 in the UBS Arena on Long Island. And we made the jump to kind of a new market at the end of 2022 in Florida. So we have a franchisee down in Tampa who's going to be opening up their second Mighty Quinn's this summer.
Super. So actually, quickly, before we enter into the CPG, I think folks are, and we've started working with folks getting into the franchise space. And so can you describe what was it about your expansion of your own brand, managing your own restaurants, and why you felt that franchising was an opportunity for you guys?
Sure, no, it's a good question because franchising was never on the business plan. not that it was a formal business plan, but it was never on the radar screen. What happened was, I think it was 2017 or 2018, we got contacted by this hospitality group out of Dubai. It was actually a Saudi family that had operations in Dubai. They visited the financial district area a lot and dined at our Brookfield Place location and said, wow, we need to bring this to our market. So it was one of those, the return opportunity was such that like if it worked, great, and if it didn't work, I mean, we didn't really think it would impact the brand all that much. So we said, okay, let's do this. We flew out there, we set up the restaurant, we trained them, and just through that experience, we realized, okay, if we could train, someone, a team to do this on the other side of on the planet, basically, couldn't we do this in Boston and Florida and Maryland and closer to home? So that was kind of the genesis for us to say, okay, let's really formalize or formulate, the operations game plan and put everything down on paper and really make a franchise training program that's structured, that is a very easy and quick reference for teams to kind of understand what they need to do, and then develop a training protocol to go along with that. So it's really the Dubai opening that kind of was the spark to say, okay, let's maybe do this, locally in the US.
And what is so as a franchisor and your franchise partners, what's the relationship you guys have on a daily basis? You give them a plug and play operation and then they're running on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I think franchising is very different based on the concept. There are very easy to execute concepts like maybe, a coffee category, where there's much less moving parts, less room for error, versus barbecue where, if you're smoking a brisket for 18 hours, 30 minutes in either direction, you could potentially kill the product, right? So it's definitely more of a focus and attention to detail and more going on in a barbecue restaurant than most franchise concepts. So because of that, we are probably more involved and hands-on than other concepts that are probably easier plug and play operations.
Got it. Got it. Super. So when you guys started in 17 and 18 with thinking about franchising, when that opportunity showed up, how would you say your corporate strategy was developing in relation to thinking about the restaurants, franchising, and then thinking about getting into products?
Good question. So, I mean, the restaurants were definitely the priority and have been. The franchising business, we kind of looked at as its own thing because we needed to have operations, training, and opening teams that were separate from the restaurant, right? So just managing that P&L, because you're obviously not opening a franchise restaurant every month, but you still want to have experienced and talented people that stay with the company. So figuring out how to cross-utilize talent between our operations and franchise openings and franchise monitoring, that was kind of a learning curve for us, but I think we're pretty dialed in right now. And then after franchising, as part of our desire to have a very consistent product, the sauce part of the business is one of those things that has become easy to ensure, quality and consistency by moving that to third-party co-packers. And when we started the CPG business, we were actually making and bottling the product in our own commissary. And we quickly found that we did not have the ability to keep up with the volume demand on that. And so that was really the push to say, okay, we're obviously not going to shut down our bottled barbecue business, so we're going to have to seek a means to get scale and higher capacity to make more product, and that was the co-packing business.
Got it. And so on the CPG, we're going to take a step back for folks because we're going to focus on the CPG and kind of hear about that story in a little more detail. And so obviously certain categories, the Italian category with pasta sauces and pastas and things like that. Barbecue leans into the sauce component for CPG. And was it something that folks were requesting at the restaurants? Were you guys selling in the restaurants? What were you doing that there was you start to see traction in a product?
So the first shelf placement of our products of our bottled products were in our own restaurants. Absolutely. So that was really, if people are not buying the bottled products in your own restaurants, obviously they're not going to buy it anywhere else. So we started doing it for that purpose. People were requesting the bottled sauces to go in something other than like, a quart container, right?
Yeah.
So we then figured out, okay, what bottle should we use? How do we differentiate this product? What's the label artwork look like? And as you get more visibility with CPG, then like, okay, the label has to be clean. Like we have to really do a deep dive into all of these, ingredients and formulas that we're already buying that have ingredients in them, in their own items. So that also helped us really filter out which co-packers we could work with because we didn't want any corn syrups in the product. We didn't want any preservatives on the products. We wanted all natural ingredients. And so that automatically, clears out a certain list of high volume co-packers that you just can't work with because that's not really their focus. Clean labels.
Right. So you guys obviously you have chefs at the restaurant and you guys were making your own sauce. And so when you started to think about it in a retail way, which is definitely different than a la minute cooking,
Yeah.
how was it your team that was working on this, or did you guys feel the need to discuss this with, say, outside food consultants and scientists to make that switch between to understand things like clean ingredients, shelf stable, refrigerated versus ambient products?
Yeah. Well, I guess the two parts to that question. The first part is it was really COVID that made the business accelerate and said, okay, we should probably focus on this on a bigger scale when we saw packaged goods just flying off the shelf at an increased rate. So that was really the push to do this more formally. And then the second question, the food science part of it, right? That is all handled on the co-packing side. What ingredients are shelf stable? What is your expiration date? How do you scale up, a one kettle recipe to 20 pallets of sauce, right? And all the nuances of different strengths of vanilla, versus molasses and different sugars and whatnot. So all of that science is a trial and error process that we do with the co-packer. We are not the food scientists. We just know what it should taste like, and we are the kind of the judge and jury on samples, whether they can move forward or whether we need to go back to the drawing board.
Got it. So an interesting discussion we have with numerous restaurants when they start thinking about heading into this space is the sacrifice of the restaurant's quality with transitioning to a product that's going to be made at scale and often not by themselves, right? Through a co-packer. And so how did you guys deal with that situation? And do you view that you've made sacrifices between, say, the restaurant product and what's sold at retail?
No, I don't think it's sacrifices. I think it's just being really smart on the trade-offs. So there are products that you can use in your own restaurant to make like a packaged good that maybe has a shelf life of 2 or 3 weeks, and the product is phenomenal, or maybe 2 or 3 months, and the product is phenomenal and enjoyed by your customers. And then when you scale that up, it's just okay. What's the trade-off now? I obviously can't use a 2-month stable ingredient. What are my alternatives? If there are none, how do I pivot this to a product that I'm still happy with? But first and foremost, you need those kind of the non-sexy metrics, right? Stability, consistency, shelf life. So I mean, you have to take off the rose-colored glasses and realize, okay, these are the must-haves. Now, how do we make this a product that we're proud of? And can we get it to 95% plus of what we were doing in our own kitchens? And I think we've accomplished that. So that's not an easy path, but I think that's the path that I think that everyone has to take. You can't go in and say, match this 100%, don't change my products. Depending on the category, I don't think you're going to get very far.
Right. Yeah. No, I think for folks, the capacity for grocery stores need consistency. And that's really important for them to make sure that if they buy from you in September, what they get in December is the same.
Yes. And also keep in mind that, you are not the distributor to that retail shelf. It's a distribution company. So that product has to sit in pallets in a warehouse for however long until it gets moved, right? And the last thing you want to deal with is a distributor calling you and saying, hey, by the way, you only have 2 months left on this expiration date. What do you want to do with this stuff? That's a headache, right? So, avoiding that is also, a big cost saving thing to avoid.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear though that you guys were able to, find that, happy balance between what you guys are doing in the restaurants and your sauce, which you're equally happy with for the product that it is. And that
Yeah,
it's
and also we, to make the business even better, or more streamlined rather, the sauce that we serve in Mighty Quinn's, both in a bottle and outside of a bottle, is the same exact product.
right.
So we're not making like one thing for house sauce and another thing for bottled sauce. We just have one consistent product that, matches, our standard.
And so that's streamlining your restaurant operations, in addition, giving consistency to the franchise group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also just, consumer product packaged goods aside, like when you scale a brand, a restaurant brand, into multiple units, looking at opportunities to pull processes out of your kitchens is such a win. I mean, if the numbers work, I mean, just the operational complexities that you take out of your staff's day to day is big. The cost savings that obviously you're paying more on a cost of goods, but you save on a labor. I think that typically nets out to be positive. So there's a lot of benefits aside from just CPG.
When you guys were, oh, I'm sorry.
That's anything.
Oh, I think that may have been somebody. When you guys were expanding the brand, at what point did you start working in a commissary kitchen? What was that point for you guys where you needed to pivot to get that kind of efficiencies and savings and just kind of sanity?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an evolution of moving. We used to do everything within restaurant kitchens, and then some locations, we couldn't put a smoker. For example, like we don't have a smoker in Madison Square Garden. We don't have a smoker, at the base of a 80-floor building on Wall Street, right? So there's some places you can't do it. So that was kind of that necessitated some not third party, but offsite cooking operation, which is what kind of born the commissary idea. And I think it was in 2016 or 17 that we created our own standalone commissary.
Okay.
As the stadium started to get busier, it was a need that we needed to fulfill, or demand that we had to fulfill.
And so you're delivering out to the stadium pretty much prepared products that you guys are then turning around.
Yeah.
Okay. When you guys had the commissary kitchen 16, 17, you started, we get a question often from folks wondering why not do it myself? Why should we not be making our CPG product ourselves versus a co-packer? Did you guys think about that because you had the commissary, or did you try it, or were you just like, no way?
Well, as we started dealing with a much more sophisticated customer base, and customer base meaning the wholesalers or the distributors that are buying from us, the requirement to be like 100% safety compliance, validated by all these different third-party agencies that says things were cooked correctly, cleaned correctly, bacteria-free, all that stuff. Having the peace of mind that that's all done correctly, like we're not going to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a stainless steel facility with equipment to do that ourselves. So knowing that you want the product to be done right and the same way every single time, then we hand it off to a company who's in the business of doing that, right? Which we're in the restaurant business, not in the packaging business.
Yeah. So what Micha's referencing is when folks do wholesale and you start selling in retail, effectively the FDA steps in, right? So you become federally regulated, and they have a say over it versus New York City. For a lot of the folks who are on the phone call, whether if they're in New York City, it's the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, which regulates the restaurants. So it blows up, it goes to a state level and a federal level. And Micha's saying, and all those requirements are pretty heavy duty, and co-packers have all of those, meet all those regulations.
Exactly.
Super. So talking about your co-packer, everybody's very curious about co-packers, in addition to, that kind of relationship that develops of really, bottling your brand and putting it out there. And you mentioned it a little bit, kind of finding clean labels and stuff, but what was your journey on finding a co-packer that you liked who met your needs?
Yeah. So the co-packing industry changed pretty materially during COVID. Minimums went probably 2 or 3x what they were prior to COVID. So meaning like the batch you had to create was 2 or 3 times larger than the batch before. And keep in mind, you are the bot, you have to pay for all this stuff up front, right? So you just 2 or 3x your upfront investment to get a sauce done, a sauce line done. So we started talking to co-packers that still met the volume range that we were comfortable with. We're not going to go make 100 pallets of sauce and cross our fingers. So we needed a smaller number. And then we just started talking, started requesting samples from, 3 to 5 co-packers, getting samples back based on our recipe. Some were like, this can't even be our recipe, threw that one away. Some were very close, gave them notes, asked for a second run on the sample. And then some were pretty damn close. And so, as you just kind of filter through the players and who can match the sauce, with the right volumes at the right price, that's who kind of we ended up going with.
Right. So is it local or where are they? Because co-packers are nationwide.
Yeah, no, ours is not very local to us now.
Right. So logistics of that is not a headache for you guys.
Not really. I mean, there are third-party warehouse networks all over the country, so you can park your goods wherever you want. And I think it's more important to get the product right than to make it a little less expensive to ship back. We'd rather have the product 100% than save a few bucks.
Right. And so for the co-packers, I think for folks on the phone, co-packers are going to be kind of somewhat category specific. So often a co-packer saying will be in the sauce space, which is broad because that tends to be kind of the similar equipment needed to be making sauce for Mighty Quinn's and then doing it for other brands that could even be, for example, in an Italian category. And then you have other categories, frozen, you'll have frozen co-packers. And that's how the world of co-packing will often break out for folks. Do you guys have other SKUs that you're dealing with other than the sauces right now?
No, we started with our barbecue sauce and then we launched our wing sauce last year. So just 2 products right now.
And it's the same guys who are doing
Same guys, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Great. And so we mentioned it initially that the co-packer relationship can be pretty comprehensive in the capacity that they take care of a lot of stuff for you. And that's part of the financial bargain, right? Of what you're paying them for is can you explain they did R&D and then regulatory, they take care of all of that. And then what about your packaging, for example, your nutritional fact panels and your brand and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So the artwork and the branding is all, we kept all that in-house. I think a lot of co-packers do have that as like a secondary service. They can help you do the packaging and label design. We knew what we wanted and we already had the artwork done. So we took care of that. In terms of like the bath nutrition panel, they also assist with that. I mean, they're doing the formula, so their system very easily spits out the nutritional panel, serving size information, all that good stuff. Allergens, if there are any.
Yep. And that's one of the, when we encourage folks to consider using co-packers, this is one of the reasons is because yes, you are paying for it, but it is a lot of support that they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you, so you guys handle that, goes into warehousing. Let's talk, and you have your finished product. Did you have trouble meeting the minimums? People are concerned with minimums. That is like putting that money up front, as you mentioned, is I think something that people are concerned about.
Yeah, well, I mean, you should know that up front before you go down this whole process. Once the samples come back and are approved, the next question should be, okay, once we get there, how much of this do I have to run at one time and what's the cost, right? It either works or it doesn't. So, we wouldn't have moved forward if we thought that we couldn't take on the first run.
And so with that, you guys have a bunch of sauce made, you guys have done it, and now you started thinking about retail. You had the store, you have the restaurants.
Yes.
And so what was your kind of retail strategy so now you got it made, where were you going to get it sold?
Sure. So the next step was we brought on somebody on a part-time basis to focus on CPG sales. And that started, not surprisingly, very locally. with some of the grocery chains that are, 2, 3, 4, 5 door brands in the city.
Yep.
So very easy to like locally place a few cases in each store. So it started off kind of in hometown. And then he was more successful in getting us into distribution, which then you can then talk to large grocery chains because you're automatically, you typically you either have very large regional coverage or national coverage, depending on the distributor. We did a couple of CPG shows, which is a whole interesting world in and of itself. So through some combination of, direct outreach to grocery chains, distribution sales teams, and our own efforts at the trade shows, that kind of, I can't tell you what did best, but because with those three kind of paths to sales, that's how we kind of found ourselves where we are today.
Super. Do you guys have a direct to consumer website that it's available?
Yeah, we've always had our sauce sold by the bottle or by the case on our website, through a Shopify plugin. And then late last year, we also launched on Amazon.
So the Shopify plugin, just to speak about that with folks, how does that fulfillment work? So if I place my order with you guys, where's it coming from?
I think there's a million ways you can set that system up. Ours specifically just comes to our commissary and we drop and ship. I think there are definitely third-party providers where you like literally do nothing. They have your inventory, they receive the orders, they take a fee for that. But we didn't do that. We just kind of kept it in-house and used the Shopify infrastructure to be able to charge for product, sell, and get shipping.
Okay, got it. So you also mentioned that you started with Amazon last year.
Yes.
How's that relationship going? Was it difficult, complicated, super easy?
I mean, nothing's easy in the CPG world. It's a very expensive place to operate from the beginning. With Amazon, we brought on a third-party agency to run the analytics of the barbecue sauce category. Because it's not as simple as just saying, okay, we'll sell a bottle of sauce on Amazon for $8 and they take their 30% commission, we'll make some money. No. We found out quickly that selling single SKUs was never going to be profitable based on the ad spend that we needed to support. So we created a small box that has 2 bottles per box, and that's our offering on Amazon. So basically packs of 2. And we kind of just let it run organically. So it's kind of been, we're very new relative to, products on Amazon. Like this is being on there for 3 months is like being on there for a day. It's, it takes a while to get the product matured up and people trying it. But, the reviews have been building, which gets us better placement. I think our wing sauce hit like some top 20 category, fairly recently, which made it an Amazon pick. And so a lot of the good stuff kind of organically has been happening for us. And we're now just kind of dipping our toe into ad spend just to see if we can throttle it even more, figuring out where our break evens are with that ad spend, and going from there.
So when you went to Amazon, what was the impetus? Was it because everybody buys everything at Amazon and you felt like you were out of it?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the hedge fund days, right? Just think about yourself as a consumer. When I buy stuff, where's the first place I go? Amazon, right? Not necessarily for all my groceries, but like if you wanted to try something like sauce, like there's a million sauces, right? So with the same mindset of the restaurant of like, are you on third-party delivery? Like, yes, we are. That's where consumers want to shop and find us, right? So we want to make the consumer purchasing product as friction-free as possible. So in the same vein of, we're on Uber Eats and Mighty Quinn's, we're also on Amazon in the sauce business because that's where people are shopping.
The distributor relationship with your employee who connected you guys with that.
Yeah.
Once that came to fruition and you had that, what was that kind of pace like from where you started with them to where you started getting placed, say at Whole Foods or regional Whole Foods? And are you guys carried nationally now? How's that expansion gone with the distributor? And was that really different than kind of on your own?
It is, because we would not be able to fulfill nationally on our own. Too expensive. Sauce is heavy, right? And we have glass product which breaks if it's not packed correctly. So without the distribution network, we could not be national. And also just think about how hard it would be to sell, the 10-unit chain in California from New York. Like they don't want to deal with any headaches. They just want product on the shelf that they think will move. Okay, so they go to their local distributor who's 10 miles away, who drops them, 50 other SKUs and, easy peasy, right? It's in the door. So I think if you have the CPG product with eyes of kind of national expansion, like that's really the only path, in my opinion. If you want to stay local and service shelves within your deliverable area, that's another option. You can stay local and do it that way.
Right. When you guys are you guys who's on one question back to Amazon regarding
Yeah.
fulfillment? How's that happening? You guys as well?
No, we used Amazon for that. So
Okay.
you keep track of like your inventory on the back end, and we ship them boxes of product as needed, and they send it out, however their algorithm tells them to send it out, geographically, so it can be shipped on Prime, in a day or two.
Okay. The and so did you guys use a other than the distributor, do you guys hire some people hire grocery brokers to get onto shelves of grocery stores? Did you guys contemplate that or utilize such a person?
Yeah, we do have one broker relationship who's helped us. I would before we signed them on, I was a little hesitant, but I think that for a new brand in a new market like this, it's important. There's a lot of things that you don't know that you don't know, and they really help navigate the complexities of distribution channels and all the P&L shenanigans that goes on with chargebacks and stocking fees and depletion fees and all that stuff.
Yeah. So overall, you'd say once you get traction, you could probably see their value decreasing, but initially it was worth it.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's decreasing. Because if you're growing, there's more for them to do. If you're not growing, then it's just going to be kind of a painful P&L check to write every month. But if you're growing, it should be self-supported.
Right. There's been you guys have been very thoughtful in your approach. You've used a number of outside services from the co-packers to the distributors. Was this this business that you created, was this a capital intensive thing to launch, or was this basically easy peasy, didn't take us any?
Yeah, nothing's easy, but I would say the only capital intensive part was that first run where you have to produce in advance of orders anticipated coming down the pipeline, right? So getting that product made and stored somewhere was kind of the initial investment check. And from there, hopefully you create this kind of self-funding wheel whereby you're getting paid from distributors for product that went out to then fund new sauce runs with the co-packers.
The the business side of, there's been other restaurant brands that are getting into this space too, and you see some brands who are becoming almost predominantly CPG versus their restaurants. And so, quick question: what has been kind of beneficial about starting this line? Like, do you like running the CPG line? Has it been a good thing for the restaurants and vice versa?
Well, I think like whenever you have your logo on a storefront or a bottle or a box somewhere, right, it's another opportunity for people to learn about you. So, whether we have, for example, bottles of sauce in Texas right now, in Texas grocery stores who have never heard of, Mighty Quinn's, let alone maybe even New York City barbecue, which is probably a sensitive subject, right, in
In
Texas.
Texas, at least.
Yeah. But it's just an opportunity for people to learn about the brand. And if they love the sauce, it's all upside. A lot of the ways we've gotten placements is through tastings, mainly at some of these trade shows where people who try the product and, understand how differentiated it is and end up picking it up.
Yeah, the trade shows, are you referring to Expo East and Expo West, Fancy Food Show?
There's a ton of them, but yeah, those
Yeah,
are included.
those
Yeah.
are a few of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of trade shows where all new brands and natural brands, right? I mean, you guys are in that category. Are you organic?
We're not organic. And I would encourage anybody that has kind of their sights set on a nationally branded CPG business to go to a trade show, not as an exhibitor, but just walk the show, go to a big one. You will see how saturated every category is. And I think it's just telling about, you know, the hill you have to climb for some of these really niche-y things that people are doing. Like 2 years ago, vegan snacks, my God, I mean, it was just like a football field of vegan snacks, all processed, crunchy, some derivative of soy, whatever it may be, with different flavor profiles and different spins. But like, I think that would have told someone who thought they had a great idea, okay, maybe I need to think about this a little bit more. A billion water companies who all have their own unique spring aquifer story that as a consumer, you just have to have like the no bullshit test and be like, is anyone going to give a shit about this? Like in spite of having 10 other or 20 other options, like how do you get this product to market and make people care? Walking those trade shows is going to spark a lot of these questions in your mind, and maybe steer you one way or another.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think there's always trends in the category, whether it was alternative meats, where there was a lot of money being put behind it, to the beverages, to good for you snacks, as it's called, the vegan stuff.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that. One question regarding, because of your finance background, and we do get questions about this, is what are your thoughts on the capital needed and taking in investors? Some of these brands are trying to act like tech companies
Yeah.
with
Okay.
valuations when it's food. And so do you see pitfalls to taking money in that capacity for these types of products?
So like if you can integrate AI into the barbecue sauce, I think you've got something,
AI, yeah,
right?
exactly. If you can integrate AI into your barbecue sauce, or it's
Yeah.
got a website or a
Yeah.
tech platform that you can
Yeah. Look, the capital raising for a new product. I don't have much exposure to that. I haven't heard of many things happening with investments in new products, only established products that have traction and revenue.
right.
I think like CPG investors it's definitely a show me story. You can't say like, here's my idea. Do you want to fund me? It's like, no, you have to go figure out a way to get that thing on the shelf and show me that it's moving and people care. Then you can talk about money. But I have not really, and this isn't saying it doesn't happen, but I've rarely heard or never heard of like a CPG idea getting funded like on a seed level before it's even a real product beyond like maybe friends and family writing checks.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's, we've actually met with some folks who want to treat CPG a little bit like tech, where you get funded for the idea. And I agree with you that it's challenging, and we are encouraging our clients to have a real product that is tangible, in hand, in the market, in the local area. Many of the things you've mentioned are the things we talk about, such as when you guys launched, you started in your neighborhood, you started in NYC.
Yeah.
These are your stomping grounds where Mighty Quinn's was known, and where you
Right.
get that traction.
Yeah. And also let's just clarify, like you can quote unquote fake it till you make it, right? You can make not pallets, you can make cases of your own stuff. You could buy your package containers, you could buy your labels, make your product, you can get it done, right? You can have something to show someone. You can start selling that stuff that shows whatever, right? So you don't have to do the whole co-packer thing and warehouses out of the gate. You can just start really small and see if like the little embers or start fires anywhere.
Yeah, we've encouraged people to definitely, you need a product. That's one. It's, if you don't have the product, you don't have much. And then in addition to getting folks your label and your packaging is close to reality of what you're looking for,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, I think grocers, trade shows, people they don't have much vision. So they kind of need to see what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. You got to be able to touch it, hold it, taste it. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Without that, there's nothing, because we have a number of clients who have the idea, and the first thing we encourage is like bringing that to physical fruition.
Yeah.
So to have it. You mentioned you had a salesperson who was focused. This brand for the sauces, is it a side hustle for you guys? Is it full time? How many resources are you guys dedicating to this?
Not a lot. I mean, I wouldn't call it a side hustle because it's a Mighty Quinn's branded product, and we're in the Mighty Quinn's business. So it's just another leg of our growth story. But it's not something that we allocate a ton of hours to every week. Maybe that's because we have, the brokers that we retain. We have distributor sales teams kind of, working on our behalf. And, rightly or wrongly, we're kind of also maybe relying on just the natural adoption of the product in the market. More people try it, more people buy it. That then triggers more reorders. So we're trying, and then Amazon thing is its own kind of flywheel. So I think that if we had, just a pile of money and said, hey, let's just allocate X dollars to focus on this, yeah, we would do that. But we're not really looking to like blow the doors off with this out of the gate. We just want to kind of let it naturally grow, and then let's get it to a place where it can kind of fund its own investments rather than spending money ahead of it.
Right. With that, do you guys, your marketing efforts regarding this? So how do you market this product in relation to the restaurants, your social outlets, et cetera?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing in that respect?
Yeah, we tiptoed into some social media marketing with the product, but as you can imagine, like very, very challenging to get that content in front of the eyeballs in whatever regions you happen to be selling. And also, you can't really tell them where to go because oftentimes you don't know where to send them to go. You'll be in stores that you'd never heard of because distributors are getting you placement. So marketing for CPG specifically is probably something we'll tackle later on. Marketing right now is not a focus for that business, aside from ad spend, which we're doing on Amazon as an example.
Okay. And the reporting, so from your distributors and, so you're being sold it, right? So now you're being put into stores you have no idea about, you may have never heard of. What kind of reporting for you guys to figure out your kind of growth plan? Are the distributors like would you call them your partners? Like they're trying to help you grow, or
Yeah.
are you pushing your own growth? How's that working?
Yeah, that data transparency is different distributor to distributor. Some would give you nothing, and some treat you like a partner, letting you know where your product's going, coming to you for ideas, coordinating tastings at retail. So, white, gray, and black, and every shade in between. I mean, every distributor has their own way of doing business, and oftentimes you won't know what you're getting into until you've kind of moved forward, and you see kind of what's available to you.
Got it. How many distributors are you guys working with currently?
Right now, we have what I would say is kind of two core and like a third ancillary one.
Got it. And just for folks, you launched the sauces when, and how many stores are you in today?
So I guess our official kickoff was during COVID, so maybe products hit distribution in 2021.
Okay.
And then I think today we're somewhere between 600 to 800 stores.
Nice. And are you in, so people always ask about Whole Foods and things like are there, just around us, like from a regional perspective or national perspective, even in the New York metro, who's carrying you guys like on a big?
I don't think we're in Whole Foods in the city. We're more in kind of some of the specialty markets like, Zabar's and Grace's and, Christie's, just some of the more, regional 3 to 10 unit chains in the city.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what is the goal for you guys to be? Are you expensive? So where does your product sit in its category?
Yeah, we definitely position it as a premium product within the category. It is a amber glass Boston round bottle, which is not that common, and I think just has this kind of like artisanal vibe to it, which just subconsciously sets it apart from the traditional clear glass, vase style barbecue sauce bottle, right? It's not plastic, it's not squeezable. We kind of have a Art Deco kind of vibe to our logo and color scheme. So I think it definitely sets apart from some of the more commercial brands. And because of that, it is probably priced at the higher end of the market.
And so is the goal, do you guys see yourself expanding? Have you encountering things like, are you there yet where there's pressure on volumes and the need to bring prices down, or not yet, or you see yourself staying there? What's your vision?
Yeah, we're not there yet. I mean, we're not big enough, I don't think, to the point where we have to like stress over, or should it be, $8 or $7.25 on the shelf. It's more it's more differentiated and not competing with some of the more commoditized products within the category. So we're not, just by virtue of that, we're not as price sensitive at retail.
Okay. That's good. So the brand, so what are so I mean, I think we've talked about this a little bit. So are you in charge of managing the business? Essentially?
I mean, I oversee it, and then the person that I mentioned before kind of does more of the full-time oversight of it.
Right. And then are there pressures related to this industry? Like, how is it differed in a good way or bad way from the restaurant space?
Oh, I mean, it's completely different. It's a different customer base, a different path to market, a different sales strategy. It's like it's completely its own thing. And I know probably a lot of people that are listening to this are in the restaurant business. Being able to sell this thing in your own four walls first will teach you a lot about what its potential is and what path you should take. So I can't say there's no kind of standard, vanilla path to market through distribution to get to retail. You kind of have to learn where people are pulling this product, what are they using it for, how often do they buy it, and everything in between, and then kind of formulate how you can translate all that information or all those things you learned about into a broader go-to-market strategy, if that's the path you choose. I mean, it's definitely gonna, there's more headaches and problems and things to solve than running the restaurant. And if you don't want to be distracted with those things, then you should probably, stay local and just keep it in the store.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the things that's been nice about the restaurant client base and those folks who are thinking about it is like often we're talking to people who have established strong brands in their category, whether it's barbecue, Italian food, Mexican food, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that they have a willing testing audience, who is coming. And so I think you guys were able to really prove your concept in the restaurants, which is gigantic for people because a lot of brands that start up from nowhere don't have that.
Right. No, that's fair. And also, who doesn't know what a barbecue sauce is, right? It's something that everyone's already familiar with versus some of these kind of more esoteric, niche products that maybe there's a consumer learning curve that you have to get through or get over first before they want to buy it and even understand what they're supposed to use it for. Like chili crisp, for example, is something that burst onto the scene, several years ago, but maybe 10 years ago, no one even knew what that was.
Right. Yeah. No, I think and it's come on strong. So are you guys planning on you're gonna let it grow organically and see how it goes in line with the expansion of the other things you guys are doing?
Yeah, that's fair.
Super.
Yep.
All right. I just want to give people there's an opportunity for anyone who has questions. We're happy to take them. They can be put into the chat. And so we're happy to answer those for people today. Let me just double check. Okay, if anybody wants to ask a question of Micha or myself, we're happy to do it. Okay. All right. Well, I hope folks, I think we've covered our topic. Here you go. Let's see. Can you see that or you cannot see that?
Yep, I see it.
How long did you decide? The question is, how long did you sell in your store before you decided to go out to the market?
So I think we were selling in the store for probably 2 to 3 years before we went to market. And again, the decision was during COVID when CPG took off. So we were 2 to 3 years in our own stores, and then since call it 2020, 21, we've been doing it outside of our restaurants. And the other question was, are you self-funded the entire time? Yes, we kind of did this internally. Like I was saying before, we did an initial production run that we were comfortable with. It was a number that we thought we could fund, but also that we thought we could sell within 12 months, right? So based on the shelf life of the sauce, we knew we wouldn't run into any expiration problems with the amount that we produced. So I mean, And just to follow up to that is, yeah, we have outside investors, but the outside investment was not specifically geared towards restaurant or CPG. It was just in Mighty Quinn's, and yeah, just by virtue of that, money is fungible. Some of that went towards the CPG business.
Right. And so here we got a couple questions coming in now. What is having the CPG product on the shelf helpful to the overall brand, and does it help you sell franchises?
Yeah, so it's funny. We actually do list the website on the bottle is our franchising website, but I don't think we've sold franchises from a customer picking up a bottle off the shelf. But it's helpful in brand recognition because we often hear people who kind of didn't even know we were a restaurant that bought the sauce, loved the sauce, and then did their own investigations. Oh, we're coming to New York. I can't believe you have restaurants. They come into the restaurant, right? So it's definitely a sales funnel, but not necessarily for selling franchises.
Super. We got a question that this goes back to the R&D. The R&D is, where did you start first? Recipe, samples, branding, and then grocery. I'll let you go first, and then I can jump into on that.
Yeah, so we started with our own recipe because obviously when we open the restaurant, we make our own barbecue sauce. So that was stop one. And then relative to co-packing, you sign your NDA, you send them the recipe, they flip you back a sample, and then that's a trial and error process until you're happy with what you receive from them. Yeah, so we already had the branding done because, like I was saying before, we already were bottling the product ourselves. We kept the same label and artwork and bottle when we moved to co-packing, so the product didn't change. So that was all completed. That was done.
Yeah, no, I think jumping on that too, I think the first, as we just said a few minutes ago, I think the first thing to have is to have your product. And that would include, yes, a recipe. Definitely. That is something that can then be turned into a sample. And you can do that two ways. You can do it with the co-packer, or as we just said, you can also be a little more scrappy in the fact that you can do it yourself, with packaging, running your things yourself if you don't want to deal with a co-packer initially to see traction. And so you can do it a couple ways, in that respect. Just to finish that question, regarding a grocery broker, they're going to want to see a package that can go to store, to a retailer. And so I think dealing with a broker is going to be a little bit farther down the road. Once you have developed a product, you have packaging in hand. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. We got another question. Are you planning to expand the offerings?
We are, so in 2023, we launched a new menu item, which was Chipotle barbecue chicken, which has really taken off for us. It's off the bone. It's kind of caramelized with this Chipotle version of our barbecue sauce. It's got some spice to it. Because that's become so popular, we're now thinking about doing another flavor profile for the bottled sauce. So that's kind of in the R&D phase right now.
Okay. And I mean, you guys may be a little bit new for this and you're not feeling that, but any pressures to be expanding the line to stay relevant, like perhaps with the brokers or the grocery stores themselves or anything like that?
No, I don't think that increasing the SKUs keeps you relevant for the distributors. In my mind, they just want to move products and they want to keep as little of it as possible in their house, right? So they want to maximize sales and minimize their inventory. So if you're adding more SKUs that they then have to warehouse that are not selling, I mean, that can be the opposite of staying relevant. You can become a burden for the distribution team if, for example, only 2 of your 3 flavors are moving, right? Focusing on one and getting one moving and healthy is probably more important than expanding the product line, in my opinion.
Right. This is a nice optimistic question. Have you guys been approached by major players to be purchased?
I can't comment on that one.
No comment. There you go. And I'll answer this one. What someone's asking about legal documentation you would need to start off with liability wise. And so I think in this we can even use just our discussion as an example. You will have possibility of NDAs with a co-packer when you're developing a recipe that is unique to you and you view as a trade secret. So that would be a non-disclosure agreement. And then once you head down into a relationship with a co-packer, it's not uncommon to have a co-packer a co-packer agreement in place. And that kind of basically establishes everything from your pricing terms, minimums, to all the legal issues that you would address in that relationship. And so those would be the kind of the first pieces of documentation, if you will, regarding that. And then there's all the ancillary ones too that you could be involved with, everything from shipping to your technology agreements to sell online. We've got a question about, do you think you need a public persona to sell product, like being on TV?
It sure would help. I mean, I think it's a very busy, loud, crowded market in every category. You put a famous face on what you're selling, I mean, yeah, you're definitely ahead of the curve, 100%. Unfortunately, my face doesn't cut it. No, and no one knows who I am, and nor in our company we don't have nationally recognized celebrities or profiles to sell our product. But I think if someone had the opportunity to align with an influencer, celebrity, sports figure, whatever, yeah, that I would definitely pursue that.
Someone's asking if you have ad budget.
No, only because every time we do something new with ad spend, it's all trial and error. We'll tip your toe into it. My mind is, if $1,000 is not moving the needle, I'm not really sure that $5,000 is going to move the needle. So we test small, and if it's validated, we'll scale up. But if it's like not, if nothing happens, we typically move on to something else.
Got it. And you haven't gone down the road of things like and that includes social media. You don't have the social media campaign. That's inclusive of that.
Right.
And so you haven't hired people like influencers or doing things like along that line for this stuff.
No, we've been approached, but not yet. Only because it just seems very difficult to pay for that content, manage where it's distributed in a way that it gets in front of eyeballs that are in regions where your shelf is on the product in those markets. Like, we haven't really figured out that web yet. And I think unless you had a real national, 8,000, 10,000 grocery stores where your hits are going to get some sales, I think it's too early for us to do that.
Got it. Super. If folks have any more questions, we're happy to take them. But if not, I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us and everybody who will watch this one day. In addition, I want to give a big thanks to Micha Magid for joining us. It was great, super helpful, super informative. We appreciate your honesty and transparency in describing your business to us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Super great, and continued best of luck with it.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody.